Hi, I'm Matt, and on today's Matt's World DIY, I'm making delicious and super easy vanilla cupcakes. And in the second part of this video, I'm going to show you how you can decorate them in a really cool red, white, and blue motif to celebrate 4th of July. So let's get to it. Before we get started assembling this recipe, go ahead and preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Also, place 12 cupcake liners in a cupcake tin to get that ready to receive your batter. Then we can go ahead and get started. To begin this recipe, I'm going to start with 1 cup of all-purpose flour. That's also about 120 grams if you weigh it out. You know I like to weigh out my dry ingredients because that is a surefire way to make sure your measurements are exact. So you don't have too dry of a batter or too wet of a batter. So I'm putting that into my sifter. I'm also going to put 120 grams or a half a cup of granulated sugar in my sifter, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/4 teaspoon of salt. If you're using salted butter in your recipe, you don't need to add any additional salt. I'm using unsalted butter, but simply because I don't have any salted butter, I'm adding 1/4 teaspoon of salt to add some contrast to the flavors. I'm finished with my scale, so I'll put that off to the side. And those are my dry ingredients. So I'm just going to sift this out to get the rocks out. Another beautiful thing about this recipe is that I'm doing everything in one bowl. I'm not going to have a whole lot of dishes to have to clean up later. I have my dry ingredients in here. I'll get it. There we go. I have my dry ingredients here, and now I'm going to add my wet ingredients to the mixing bowl. I'm also going to use my electric mixer today. It's just going to make the job a whole lot easier, and it will come together super fast. So to my dry ingredients, I'm going to add 1 stick of room temperature butter. I'm also going to add 2 room temperature eggs. Now it's time to get our mixture combined. I'm going to turn my mixer on really low for about 5 seconds so that I don't have a big explosion of flour flying. And then after that, I'm going to mix this for about a minute. There we go. This was mixing for about 1 minute, and we have a nice texture here of our batter. The final 2 wet ingredients I'm going to add is 1.5 tablespoons of whole milk, room temperature, as well as 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract. With my milk and vanilla in the mixer, let me mix this for another 30 seconds or so just to combine everything, and then we'll be ready to assemble these into the muffin tin. And that looks absolutely perfect. I can't tell you how easily these muffins come together. There's really no need to use a box mix whenever you can go with all natural ingredients, none of those preservatives and other things that are in the boxes. When you can do something as simple as this. They're just basic ingredients that you probably have lying around in your kitchen. Time to take this off and scrape down all of my little bits around the edges and the bottom. Then I'm putting it in the tin. So to get my batter into the muffin tin, I could use a scoop and do it that way, or I'm just going to use today 2 little handy spoons to manipulate the batter into these cups. So what you want to do is fill each one of the cups about 2/3 or 3/4 of the way full. So my measurements made 10 little cupcakes. I think that's going to be great. I wish I could have gotten 12, but I got 10 and it's going to be just fine. Now this goes into my 350-degree oven for 20 to 22 minutes. While our cupcakes are in the oven cooking, what I want to do is make some blue chocolate stars that I'm going to use as a decorative element on our cupcakes. And the way to do that is super easy, simple. I'm going to take about a cup of white chocolate chips. I'm going to microwave that on some short bursts at about medium power, just until these start to become melty, and then I'll stir it to melt it the rest of the way. So you see how easily that came together into a melted type of consistency. What I can do, if I wanted white stars, I could use this as it is. I want blue stars, and I really wish I had gel food coloring, because gel food coloring will work a bit easier in your whatever it is that you're trying to color. I have liquid So this might make it more liquidy, but I'm not going to put a lot in here. So I'm going to start with 1 drop of blue food coloring, and I'm going to start stirring that in to see what I get. You can always add more, but you can't take any away. So be careful whenever you're working with food coloring. The other thing you want to have on hand is a little Ziploc bag and a pair of scissors. Have a sheet of parchment paper available. I put mine on a cookie sheet for easy transport. Okay, and I'm just putting this into my bag. I'm going to push down the chocolate into one of the corners and make a tiny hole. I don't want too large of a hole because then it will come out too quickly and too thick. I want to be able to have more of a precision tip. I'm going to take my scissors and just cut a small hole on the end. And now we're ready to start piping. Okay, let's see what I can do. I like the left-hand version better, definitely. I've got my stars done. Let's check on these cupcakes now. Perfection! These are great! You know they're done. If you push them a little bit, you push on the tops and they bounce back, it's perfect. So now what I'm going to do is allow these to cool, and my stars are going to set as well, but we also have to make some buttercream. So we're going to do that next. So the way we're going to start, I'm going to start with 2 room temperature sticks of butter. I'm going to beat the butter for about 5 minutes. It sounds like a long time, but what you want to do is you want to have that beating time to be able to fluff up the butter, get it nice and creamy, and you'll also notice that it'll change to a paler shade of yellow, even almost closer to a white side when we do that. Okay, I've been mixing this or beating that butter for about roughly 5 minutes. Okay, so now from here, I'm going to take about 2 cups of sifted powdered sugar and add to the butter. I'm not going to put it all in at one time. I want to gradually add it so that it has a chance to incorporate instead of going in, dumping in all at one time. You're gonna end up with some lumpy, clumpy stuff. So I'm going to put in about half of the sugar right now. I'll pour in the other half afterwards. Nice and slow to get started and gradually increasing the speed. Okay, that looks good. Now I'm going to put the remainder of my sugar in. Now I also want to add a little bit more liquid because this seems very stiff. So I'm going to put in about 2 tablespoons, a little bit more of some milk, and also just a little bit of vanilla. Let's get to mixing again. Okay, let's see what we have here now. This looks really good. So here we have our buttercream. I'm just going to scrape down the remaining little bits in here. And this looks really good. Look how stable that is. It's definitely going to hold and it won't droop and sag or melt onto my off the sides of my cupcakes. It's going to be great. Look at that. It's like super, super solid. All right, now comes the fun part. These cupcakes are going to have a red and white swirl of buttercream frosting on top. And then I'll top them, of course, with that little blue star, the chocolate star that I have. So what I want to do is I want to take about half of this buttercream and I want to turn it red. I'm going to start with 1 drop of red food coloring and start mixing that up, and hopefully it's not going to end up looking pink. I'm going to add 1 more drop. Hopefully this extra drop is going to make it more red and it will look super fantastic. It still looks pink. Last drop. Next, what I want to do, I want to put both of these colors in a single piping bag. So I'm using 2 smaller piping bags that I'm going to insert into the larger piping bag. One of them will have my white frosting and the other one will have my red. I'll snip off the bottoms, cut off the end of the bag. Now I'll insert these 2 guys into this one large one. Okay, and as always, whenever you are piping anything, do a little test first to see how things turn out. Now it's time to get this onto some cupcakes. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pipe a circular type of mound of frosting onto the cupcake and end with a nice little dollop tip. Looks like that ice cream thing. That came out very nice. I like it. Let's just continue until we get all of them done. And then now all we have to do is remove our stars from the parchment paper and then place it onto our cupcake. And there we have our 4th of July cupcakes, red, white, and blue. The next thing I want to do is I want to have just a little bit of a better presentation than just having the cupcakes in a liner. So I went to Amazon and I purchased these cupcake cups. I'll put a link in the description below for this product. I think it's going to be a nice little addition to the presentation. Doesn't look too bad at all. Nice. Now, let's give this sweet little 4th of July cupcake a try. Rip the top from the bottom, place the bottom on the top, and you eat it like a sandwich. Let's see what it's like. Oh my God. This cupcake is so delicious. I kid you not. The vanilla cupcake is just fantastic. You have to make this recipe. This vanilla cupcake is insanely delicious and so simple to make. I hope you get a chance to make this recipe. And also, if you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And also check out some of my other sweets and bakes I have on my Sweets and Bakes playlist. I'll see you next time. Wow, this is good. Oh my God.